Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Sarah. Thank you for being here. Today I'm going to teach you how to make these gorgeous and practical kitchen country bowl covers. So let's get started. This is one of my favorite ways to use up scrap fabrics, which I have a lot of and I hate letting it go to waste. So my preferred fabrics are always cottons or linens. I think cotton is a wonderful choice for this, especially if you're using it for breads and sourdough. It's nice and breathable. And this is what we will need. I will have a full written list on my blog, which I will link below. So we're going to need fabric, pins, scissors, a ruler, elastic, bias binding, and I'm also going to link below the links to my favorite haberdashery items. The magnetic pin holder is one that I will not sew without. I know pin cushions are really cute, but I love just being able to throw my pins aside and the magnetic holder picks them up. So I highly recommend one of those. So this is our bias binding, and this is a great beginner project. I think this is one of the first things I made after I did my sewing course, and my kitchen is just filled with them. I think it's such a cute decor for your kitchen. I even made one for my coffee grinder. So let's get started. You will need your favorite bowl as well, or jar if you're going to do a jar. I have one for every bowl in my kitchen, and also for my KitchenAid mixer. Love it for when I am proofing bread. So you're going to start with laying the right side of your fabric down. So this is your printed side, and your wrong side is the side that will be hidden. So wrong side facing you. So you're going to lay your bowl upside down on the fabric, and you're going to trace around it with your washable marker. Then we are going to add 1.5 inches around that circle that we drew. So I don't add a full circle, I just add some lines roughly. I'm not a perfectionist, but by all means draw a full circle if you find that easier. Then we're just going to cut out our circle. Our next step will be adding the bias binding. I often buy bias binding if I'm not going to see it. If I'm going to see it, I will make my own out of the fabric that I'm using, say for a dress. I find it fiddly to make, however it is cheaper. If that's something you prefer to do, maybe I can do a video on that. Let me know on how to make your own bias binding, but for now I've just made it. So open one side of your bias, and we are going to pin the fabric and the bias right sides together along the edge of your circle, if you can see that. And leave an extra 1/2 inch of your bias at the end to overlap. So what we are going to do is we are going to sew along the fold of the bias there, just in that crease, and just sew all the way around till you get to the other side. I am using a sewing machine, but I will say that I believe that anything can be sewn by hand, even clothing, because there was a time before sewing machines where things were sewn by hand. It just takes a little bit longer, and that's okay. So by all means, sew this by hand. I love sewing by hand. I've only just owned a sewing machine in the last year, but I just love sewing by hand. So that is absolutely something you can do too. All right, so we have sewn that all the way around, and what we are going to do now is, if you need, just trim the bits of fabric that might be hanging over your bias. Because I didn't measure and cut my circle precisely. I have a little bit of fabric where it just went over. So I'm just going to trim that. And then we're going to fold our bias over to the wrong side, and make sure you leave that other side folded down. And then we are just going to top stitch all the way around, close to the edge of the bias, so that we have room for our elastic. Also, make sure to leave a 2-inch opening somewhere along your casing so that we can insert our elastic. So I'll give you two ways to get the measurement for your elastic. One way is you can measure around your bowl and then take away about 4 inches. Or the way that I prefer to do it is just put the safety pin on my elastic and then feed it through first and then cut it. I just find that way the best way to do it, and I feel like it wastes less elastic. But it is totally up to you which way you do it. I think when it comes to sewing, baking, keeping our home, we need to find ways that work best for us. We all think and function differently. Okay, so now just attach your safety pin to your elastic. I like to do it through twice because I find it just feeds through better. And then simply insert your safety pin and elastic into your casing. If you have cut it, make sure you hold on to the other end because it is very easy to lose track of where you are, and then the end of your elastic slips into your casing and then you have to start again. So hang on to the other end of your elastic as well while you do this. So feed your safety pin all the way around until it comes out the other side. So I am new to YouTube, but maybe you follow me on Instagram, Sarah_wildmothering. I get a lot of questions how I sew with 3 kids, and I will tell you they are right there next to me a lot of the time. They are popping in and out with questions, and they're asking me to do things for them, and that's okay. It takes a little bit longer than when I'm on my own, but they are always around. So if you're wondering how I get it done, it's just about doing it, regardless of whether they are there or not. So once I have threaded my elastic all the way through the casing, I like to put it on my bowl and just see if I'm happy with it before I cut my elastic and sew it together. So once you're happy with it, grab your 2 ends of elastic and overlap them. Make sure you do not twist it here. That is something I commonly do. I think I even did it for this bowl cover. So make sure they're not twisted. I like to stick a pin in my elastic. I just find it's easier. Then I pop it under my sewing machine and I just sew it so kind of like a rectangle. You don't want your elastic coming undone, so really make sure it's sewn on well. So yeah, I do a rectangle here and just like go back and forth a little bit to make sure it is really secure. You could also do this by hand if it's a bit fiddly to do with your sewing machine. So once we are done that, we just pull our elastic so it's all spread out and in our casing, and then we are going to close up our end. So I just fold it over and then sew it shut. And that is how simple it is to make a bowl cover. It didn't take me long at all. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe, leave me a comment of what you would like to see next. I have so much to share: sewing, baking, homemaking. It's just finding the time to do it. I've also set up a blog with the information on this bowl cover if you prefer to read. So please go find that. I will link it below. And thank you so much for watching.